Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Today we will talk about Crime and Punishment, which is an English novel, classic novel. So now we will speak. Before we start, I will going to tell you something about the book. Well, what it's about is the agony of the anti-hero. Could you commit the perfect crime? Is there such a thing as a just murder? That costs the life of one person but benefits many others. Can rational consideration silence the human conscience? FyodorDostoevsky investigates this question in his classic novel Crime and Punishment. The best known work of his Russian author masterfully depicts the destitute student Romanovich murder of an old pawnbroker and his subsequent agony of conscience. Raskolnikov considers himself a kind of superhuman, compares himself with Napoleon, and tries to justify his action with rational arguments. But with the murder, he slides into a slow, canoeing despair. The virtuous prostitute, Sonja, finally persuades him to admit his guilt and start a new life. Dostoevsky, committed to Russian realism, described the social misery on the streets of St. Petersburg in easy to understand but gripping language. He succeeded in writing not only one of the greatest crime novels of all time, as well as an intriguing psychoanalysis that illuminates the abysses of a murdered soul. I'll share my screen. Down at its in St. Petersburg. In July, in St. Petersburg and the crowded city, a stifling hot radio Romanovich Raskolnikov, sorry for the pronunciation, it's very hard for me, came from the countryside to study law but can no longer afford his tuition fees. Handsome and intelligent but neurotic and mercurial, Raskolnikov spends his days sleeping in rundown quarters and dodging his landlady to whom he deeply in debt. He wears rags that would embarrass even the savviest of men. Raskolnikov is improvised, isolated, and unwilling to find work. Raskolnikov visits the spinster pawnbroker Alyona Ivyona, who lives with her sister Elizaveta. Alyona is stingy, relieved, and cruel. Raskolnikov believes her money could be put to better use. He pawns his father's silver watch to Alyona, and while in her apartment, he pays peculiar attention to the woman's living quarter and notes which pocket she keeps her keys and which drawer she stores her money box. Afterward, Raskolnikov visits a bar where he meets Marmeladov, a drunk. Marmeladov related his life story that he has a teenage daughter, Sonia, from his first marriage, that his wife is dead, that he has young children with his second wife, Catherine Iviona, that he has drunk the family into poverty, driving the innocent Sonia to prostitution, and that Lebeschanikov, another tenant in the building, beat Katrina and forced the landlady to evict Sonia for being a prostitute. Fascinated, Dostoevsky follows Marmeladov home and is so moved by the family's suffering that he gives them nearly all the paltry sum that he received from Alyona. Upon returning home, Raskolnikov receives a letter from his mother, Pulcheria, describing all the transpired since their last communication months ago. Raskolnikov's sister, Donia, worked as a governess in the household of a wealthy country family. The master of the house, Severodolov, tried to seduce her, Salvador's wife, Marfa Petrona, discovered this and blamed Donia, casting her out of house. Marfa later realized Donia's innocence and restored her tarnished reputation. Donia then accepted marriage proposal from Fyodor Petroshev Luzin, a wealthy but repulsive St. Petersburg attorney. Kulcheria also writes that he and Donia will soon be coming to St. Petersburg for the wedding. Raskolnikov knows his sister doesn't love Luzin and is only marrying him for financial security. And for the possibility that he might employ Rasonovich's law firm, Donia self-sacrifice, disgusts, and shames Raskolnikov, who vows to end the engagement. Raskolnikov considers borrowing money from his friend Razumehinin for asking him for a job, but decides instead that he will do so only after 8. He falls asleep outdoors and dreams of a drunken crowd beating an old horse to death. When he awakes, he feverishly debates whether he should go through it. Though the idea of it both repulses and fascinates him, he committed to the idea and feels that it is inevitable. As he walks home, he passes Lizaveta in the street and overhears that she will be running an errand the following night, leaving Ayana home alone. The next night, Raskolnikov awakes from sleep for later than intended. He decides that there is still time to act. He slips out of his apartment unseen. He is unable to steal an egg from his landlady's kitchen as originally planned, but finds another in the porter's office by chance. He carries the axe hidden in the hood. He reaches Aliona's apartment without being spotted. Although suspicious of Rasmus's strange demeanor, she allows him inside when he claims that he has an item to pawn. He hands her a bundle with complicated knot. While she's preoccupied with untying it, Rasul strikes her twice in the head with the axe, splitting her skull open and killing her. Despite Rasul's obsessive premeditation, his plan goes awry. Trembling and dazed, he fumes and lingers too long as he tries to look at Iona's fee and money. Levita unsuspectingly returns from her errand. Rasura then kills her with the axe too. In a dreamlike chase, Rasura slowly cleans himself with his weapon of blood. He realizes only after both murders and that the door of the apartment is open. Appalled himself, he closes and locks it while Rasura ineptly searches the apartment for valuables. Two of Aliona's customers arrive and knock at the door. Realizing something is amiss, they run to help. Rasura flees and hides in an unoccupied apartment downstairs. He manages to escape, return home, and restore the axe to the porter's room without being seen. He falls into an abrupt sleep. Rasma falls into feverish delirium. He has trouble distinguishing fantasy from reality. He worries, for instance, that all his clothes are covered in blood and he is unable to perceive this, though in fact only a small amount has changed his sock and coat lining. He cuts out the blood-stained parts. He again falls asleep and is awakened by his landlady's servant who delivers a summons for Dracula to appear at the police station. Dracula berates himself for falling asleep with the door clearly open with bloody rags in his hand. Though the servant didn't notice, Dracula discards and drags in his robe and hides a few goods he stole from Aliona in the hole in his wall. Dracula believes that the police summons must be a trick to get him confessed to the crime and debates whether he should at the police station. He learns that summoning is actually a complaint filed by his landlady for failure to pay rent. He seems an IOU resolving to pay the debt, while there he overhears the officers discussing the murders of Aliona and Leviteza and faints. He fears his reaction will raise suspicion and quickly leaves. Back at home, Raskolnikov falls into an unconscious state again. When he wakes up, he gripped by fear that someone will discover the goods he stole from the pawnbroker. He wanders the street, wondering how to dispose them and ultimately buying them under a large stone in the empty workshop he happens to pass. He then goes to visit Vizim. Raskolnikov behaves erratically and leaves abruptly. Alarming resume. On his return home, Raskolnikov is nearly run over by a horse carriage. One confesses him for a beggar and gives Rasul money that he angrily discards, at whom he lapses into conscious once again. This time, when he wakes up, Razumin is there with the doctor Zuzimo. Raskolnikov is relieved that he hasn't confessed to the crime while raving in his. He decided to pretend he's still weak and ill until he knows more about what's going on. A courier arrives and delivers 35 rubles to Raskolnikov, a gift from Pulcheria. Razumin goes to buy Raskolnikov new clothes. Zosimev leaves but later returns with the police investigator Porfiry Petrovich. Conversation turns to the murders of Alyona and Lisaveta. Razumin explains how he thinks it was committed and is shockingly on the mark whether he doesn't suspect Razulov's involvement. Lucrative business traveler to make his acquaintance. President explains that he's staying with Vizotinova, a distant associate, while his apartment is renovated to welcome Donia. Conversation again turns to the murder. Dasolovich this time learns that all the people who left pledges with Alona will be questioned. When the conversations return to Donia, Razumin insults and threatens Razumin, who takes offense and departs. Once Razumin and Razumin leave, Razumin slips out. Suicide enters his mind then, but he decides against it. He buys a newspaper to learn more of the murder investigation and runs into Zamotev, police officer who is also friends with Razumin. Raskolnikov explains to Zamotev in detail how he committed a murder without actually confessing that he did it. Zamotev is frightened of Razumin but doesn't know he would speak so openly if he truly committed the crime. Raskolnikov later returns to the scene of the murder, which has been cleaned and is prepared to rent again. Raskolnikov decides to go to the police station and confess his crime, but on his way home, he sees Marmeladov being run over by a carriage. Raskolnikov brings the dying man to his family and meets Sonia, to whom which he gives many of his mother rubles to cover the funeral expenses. When Robertson returns home, he finds Pilcheri and Donia waiting for him along with the Zemevets and Razumin. This is the end of part 1. Next week, I will be sharing its part 2. And around 2:30, I will again come back with the English summary of this same thing. Till then,